listeners, and welcome to the Liberty Mike podcast, broadcasting from an undisclosed location in the heart of Dixie. I am Michael, and I am here with Liberty Larry.
How's it going?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Pretty good. Man, I had a cool thing I wanted to open the podcast with, and I can't remember what it was now.
Oh.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, it is.
It's gone.
Now you've already derailed the whole thing, too.
Now the whole podcast is screwed up. So.
Oh. Well, we've switched places here. I will try and keep my coughing off of the podcast this time.
Yeah. My cough is, for the most part, gone. I think it's due to my back injury, though. So
Yeah.
the medicine they have me on to fix my back is fix my cough.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah. Trade one ailment for another.
Yeah,
I'd take the cough over the back any day, though. So, just saying.
Yeah, new patentable treatment for whatever it is that you're taking for your back is a treatment for TB.
Apparently. Yeah. Kind of seems that way.
Yeah. Nice. So. I think I had the flu.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the next day after the last podcast.
So it's a good thing we got that podcast in.
Yeah. I was running like between 100 and 102 degree fever for 3 days. And actually got over 102 for a little while as well.
Yeah.
And I felt awful.
So with your fevers, you let that ride, or you take something
absolutely.
for that?
It's there for a reason, man.
Okay. So we're on the same page here then.
I mean, there were some points where I was... Well, yeah. I mean, there was some concern on my side of like, how long can you sustain 102 degree fever without doing any damage to your body? But...
Well, I mean, I always figure like 24 hours. Like after that, I mean, and not to say I haven't let them go longer than that, but I feel like 24 hours is a pretty good rule of thumb. The nurse sitting next to me is giving me looks, by the way, just so everybody in the podcast world that can't see that knows.
Yeah, that was that's not me, by the way. Either.
Yeah, no, my wife.
I was emergency medicine for a reason. I'm not a caregiver. Yeah. No, I mean, but the truth is that in the mornings, my temperature's down.
Yeah.
So, like, when I'd wake up in the mornings, I would be, even when I was really sick, I would be under 100, mostly, for about an hour.
Yeah. And then it would start rising.
Yeah. It would stay between 100 and 102 the rest of the day. But it was just, like, just hurt all over. Like, everything hurts.
I went through that, I guess it was about a month ago now, and just like you, pretty sure I had the flu, but don't actually know because I didn't go get tested because why bother?
Well, it started on a Friday. My doctor's not in the office on Fridays or Saturdays or Sundays.
Yeah.
By Monday, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to treat it with anything, so I was just like... I mean, my experience... This is one of my frustrations with the medical... industry right now anyway, is that like a lot of these things, like they don't treat anything anymore.
Yeah.
It's either preventative care or nothing.
Yeah.
Or preventative care or life-saving care. There's no early treatment, it seems like.
There's nothing you can take to get rid of the flu. You can only lessen your symptoms.
No, but you can take Tamiflu at the beginning, and what's the one that the inhalant?
4 days.
Yeah.
My doctor does that.
Yeah. I don't know. It used to be.
Your doctor does that.
I know. There's somebody off mic talking this whole time.
This is
so
an
weird.
interesting conversation. Podcast for you to be here for.
Yeah. Well, I know that, but it used to be that I could go in at the beginning of flu season and just ask for a prescription for Tamiflu to have.
Yeah,
like sitting by the side if I thought I was getting
our
the flu.
doctor ain't doing anything like that.
Yeah, they won't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, why is it so hard to get? That's another problem.
That's a whole podcast right there.
I've got answers to that too. We did that podcast not that long ago.
We did, yeah. We absolutely addressed all of that. So, just saying.
Well, anyway, by Monday, I figured nobody was going to do anything for me anyway. So
you're on your own.
Yeah, and by end of the day, Monday, my fever was down. I mean, I was still running high, but not 102.
All right.
So, but I worked from home all week because why bother
Why
exposing
infect the
anybody
rest
else?
of the office,
Yeah.
right?
I don't
Yeah.
want anybody else to get that. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So it's like probably one of two things. It would be either COVID or the flu, of course.
Yeah.
If it was COVID, it was 10 times worse than the worst COVID I've ever had.
Yeah.
Of course, COVID for me has been almost nothing.
No, I had a serious bout with COVID when Delta was going around. But it had been in the house multiple times before that, and I never got sick.
Yeah.
And then nobody else in the house was sick, and I came down with a rough version of it. So.
Yeah. Well, if it was the flu, which I assume that it was probably my third worst flu.
Flu's going around.
I've had
from
worse
what
flus.
I've heard.
But here we are. I'm okay. The cough got bad again last night, and I don't know why.
It's the last to go.
Yeah, but it had gone more or less. Oh well. I think part of it is that I did go to an event last night because I was like, I'm feeling okay. And
I can go do things.
yeah, I can go do things, and it was like kind of in the woods, and I've already got bad environmental allergies, so I don't think I helped myself
By going out,
with that.
by leaving the house.
Yeah.
But your
And standing in
environment
a big field full of grass and trees that are dumping pollen everywhere. Right
That's
now.
true, but your house is a bad environment for you too. So,
Well, yeah, that's true too.
I mean, can't blame it on the grass.
And I've probably been a little lazy about vacuuming.
Yeah. So you're just getting it from all angles.
Yeah. Oh well, I'll be out of this house for a while tomorrow.
Yeah. Go visit some more grass.
Yeah, more or less. Cats, actually, more cats.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Even better.
And then the ballet.
Ah, nice. Well, who are you seeing at the ballet?
We're going to see.
Or what are you seeing? That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Princess and the
I
Frog?
can't think of this, huh?
Princess and the Frog?
No. It's the Cervantes book. Why can't I think of the name of this? Don Quixote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
we're going to see Don Quixote. And I don't know anything about that particular ballet, honestly, but I figure it'll be Spanish music and dancing.
And entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like dating somebody who's willing to go to the ballet.
Yeah, well, that's an accomplishment in
pretty-
itself.
Pretty awesome. So,
Yeah. Very cool.
okay. Well,
So
we
luckily,
should-
there's not a lot going on in the world, so we
Right.
don't have a lot to talk about tonight.
yeah, so we can waste 8 minutes at the beginning
Yeah.
talking about nothing and being interrupted by the person who said that she would sit here quietly.
That didn't need a mic because had nothing to say.
Yeah.
And we immediately start in the subject she has plenty to say about.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, I think the first thing that we should mention is that, like, going back to this, to Signal Gate, I hate that we call everything something gate. We really ought to be past
I
this
don't.
by
I
now.
don't call it Signal Gate, but
Yeah.
but
But the
with us
signal
talking
issue-
about it, this is Signal 2.0 though. Second time we've talked about it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, and it's because, like, one of the most important aspects of it, somehow we skipped right over.
Yeah.
Like, even though it was in my notes.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's the whole issue of the executive branch declaring war without anybody else's input.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because I don't care what you call it, you can play with the
Well, it wasn't a war. It was a military action, Mike. The president can make military actions without going to Congress.
no. You can play with the nomenclature all you want, but when you start dropping bombs on people, that's war.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like it's nothing. It's war to the people that the bombs are being dropped on.
That's for sure. And so it should have been declared through Congress. Like, if we were going to attack Yemen.
And you can't. What really stood out to me is all the talk in there about that it didn't have to be done immediately. Like, because we
can wait a month and see.
We can wait a month and see. Like all of that. That completely strips the idea that because that is the one thing that they'll make the arguments like, well, like something had to be done immediately, or there was no time to go to Congress. We needed to do it now.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make that argument here. Like, it's right there in the text
Yeah.
that, this didn't have to be done right now. There was plenty of time for them to have went and done it the right way.
Yeah.
But the truth is they know they don't have to.
Yeah, they made it clear that there was no imminent danger, which, there's kind of a workaround where they say that the president can take action necessary to protect, from imminent danger. But obviously that wasn't the case.
That was not the
anytime
case
you're
here. Yeah.
attacking another country,
Yeah.
I think that in and of itself probably is a sign that there was no imminent danger. Like, it seems to me that should cover actions that the president has to engage in to defend the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. And once that's done, then you declare war if that's where we're heading.
Yeah.
Like,
And if you're having to defend the United States, like actually defend the United States, that shouldn't be hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting the war declaration shouldn't be difficult.
It would be interesting to know if that would have got through Congress or not. Just the bombing of the Houthis, whether or not they. I mean,
Oh, I bet it would have.
I bet it would have too. But that just goes to the point even more.
This is the one thing that both parties agree on.
Well, yeah, but it just goes more to the point that, why not just do that? I mean, if it's going to go through.
Well, but then they would know
anyway,
it was coming.
Well, good. Maybe that'll fix it.
I know it's kind of unreal,
Like
right?
that
So
in
maybe,
itself could be a deterrent, But going back to what we had said before, like nothing's stopping the Houthis. Like this isn't stopping them. The stuff Biden did isn't stopping them. Like these guys are dug in.
Yeah, it's just very frustrating though, because in all the coverage, like that particular aspect of it, that it was completely illegal action.
Yeah. Like that doesn't come up at all.
No, the only illegal action that anybody discusses is discussing it on Signal.
Yeah,
But
right?
the fact that they drop bombs on a foreign nation without getting a declaration of war from Congress, that's not a problem at all.
It doesn't even come up.
Yeah. And apparently it's so commonplace that even for us, even though I had it in my notes, somehow we didn't mention it.
We didn't cover it. Yeah, it didn't even come up. So
Yeah, we got distracted by the whole
hype.
Signal issue also.
Yeah.
Instead of
exactly.
talking about what the real issue is, which is that somehow in this country we've got some rules for declaring war that we just don't pay any attention to anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a real problem. It was very pointed that they separated the ability to declare war from the ability to gosh, I swear my brain is like
you can't pull words today.
sieve. I know.
Yeah.
It's just like no vocabulary anymore. But yeah, process the war.
Yeah. Yeah, prosecute. So the president prosecutes the war and Congress declares it.
Right.
And that was that. You're right. That is absolutely an important thing. There's a reason you don't. If you give a president the power to just go to war whenever they want, they can use it as a political, not weapon, but
Tool.
tool. Yeah, tool here in this country.
Yeah, I came up with that little word.
Yeah, right. So yeah, there's definitely a power in that, and you can see it specifically through the Bush administration, because us going to war with Iraq and Afghanistan the way we did, there was a rally around President Bush for a second term.
Yeah.
Like I
well,
mean,
in the Clinton administration using the war in Eastern Europe as a distraction from his Oval Office problems.
oh yeah, that's true. So.
After the Monica Lewinsky accusations when we went to war in Yugoslavia.
Yeah, like I say, that's the reason it was set up not to be that way.
Yeah, and that's the difference between a king and a president.
Yeah.
Is the king has the power to declare and prosecute a war. President only has the power to prosecute the war.
Yeah.
Leaving the people's house with the power to declare the war.
Yeah.
But they don't care what we think anymore.
No. We're well past that.
Oh yeah.
So.
And so
going into kind of transitioning, if you're good, into the tariff thing.
that's where I was going to go too. On another foreign policy debacle.
Yes. Oh, dude, this is This is just wild to me. But the kind of the reason I wanted to talking about just wanting to be a king. So I heard a Democrat last night making an argument against the tariffs, and like it's hard. Like I'm against the tariffs, so it's hard to kind of screw that argument up. You would think, but this guy manages to do it because, and it's kind of wild. So what he was laying out was that the idea that Trump's doing this to intentionally crash the economy and to force these other countries to come, like I don't know if he used the word bend the knee, but come to his beckoning, and to make businesses do the same, to come to his beckoning, and that that the argument was that he's doing this all to try to kind of gain power and be a dictator.
Well, that's absurd because the quickest path out of office is to destroy the economy. Just ask Biden.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not like Trump has to run for a second or a third term, but
But you want to mount popular support against you?
Yeah, I mean that was literally the argument this guy was making. That and he's like a congressman. I wish I had gotten his name so I could like blow him up on the podcast. But it was the craziest argument I've ever heard. And it's like, man, like you've got something. The Democrats kind of have something here. Like they don't have a whole lot right now.
Yeah.
But being against these tariffs can be a positive for that party.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're out there screwing that up in the most it just blows my mind.
Well, the political argument about this is ridiculous anyway because so Trump wants to accumulate power. And he's going to do that by crashing the economy. But he needs the support in the House and Senate for his agenda.
Yeah.
But if he crashes the economy, the Republicans will not get elected next year.
No, absolutely not. And they could break ranks with him anyway because
they could.
because
they
because
mostly won't. But
they will if Trump becomes unpopular though.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
We've seen already during the Biden administration. I mean that can happen. Like I mean if the economy starts going souther than it already is.
Yeah. Well, he's touting job numbers right now.
Yeah, he ain't touting the stock market right now.
No.
Because it is in a free fall. I mean, that may be a bit extreme, but it's been down all week.
Yeah. Well, the problem with tariffs, of course, I mean, like we've been over tariffs so many times.
That's the reason I wanted to bring that specifically up because we have covered tariffs and we can talk about it a little bit. But I don't think
we will. Huh?
Yeah, but we've been through this over and over on the podcast. I mean, tariffs are free market or free exchange is the way to go. Like the whole idea that we're going to impose higher tariffs on China is only cutting our own throat.
Well, I mean, what I think the part of it that I want to respond to now is the whole thing about that it's reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah.
All right, it's reciprocal tariffs. Well, those countries are charging tariffs on us to raise the prices of American goods in their country and prevent competition from American companies in their own countries and so forth. And it's limiting the market share of American countries in foreign markets and all this kind of thing.
That argument, yeah.
Yeah. And as far as it goes, like that part's true.
Yeah.
The tariffs that other countries are placing on American goods are raising the prices of American goods in their country. And it is limiting the market share for American companies in their country by virtue of pushing the American goods price up.
Yeah.
Right? Tariffs cause domestic price increases.
Yeah.
They will here too.
Exactly.
All right. And it seems just absolutely absurd to me that it somehow seems logical to respond to other countries' policies of raising prices for their own citizens by instituting policies in this country to raise prices for U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
It's just stupid. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually benefit U.S. businesses. You can complain about how, well, U.S. businesses have a harder time competing in other countries that are charging tariffs on U.S. goods. Yeah, that's true. But instituting tariffs in this country raises prices for inputs also.
Yeah.
And so American companies that are, particularly companies that are reliant on imported products, raw materials or whatever for whatever good they produce, now their input prices are going to go up. They're going to have to charge the difference. They can't, and especially for businesses that have low margins.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, businesses with low margins, they can't keep their
absorb
prices
that.
the same,
Yeah.
because then they start taking a loss on their products.
Yeah.
And they can't maintain a business taking a loss on their products, so they have to bring the price up. But bringing the price up reduces the demand. Like, you can't get rid of supply-demand curves.
Right.
It's just a fact of economics. You can't get rid of supply-demand curves. So if you increase the price, then you reduce the demand.
Yeah.
And if you decrease the supply, you increase the price.
Yeah.
And
Like
there's
this.
just,
Yeah.
like, no matter what happens here, prices go up for Americans. Businesses that are on the margins will either have to raise their own prices so they don't compete as well.
Yeah.
There will probably be a bunch of businesses that are on the margins that fold as a result of this. And then, of course, you've reduced the supply of whatever goods they're producing, which means that the demand probably doesn't change that much, at least initially, but that drives the price up. Demand will eventually
Will dry
reduce
up. Because of the
price. So there's just all these knock-on effects as a result that some businesses will fail, prices will go up for consumers, there won't be as great a supply of certain goods. It's
just a loser.
It's a disaster
man.
all the way
It's just
around.
a loser.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew this before Trump was elected, because we talked about it on this podcast. Like, that tariffs are an issue that he has been on since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
He's not.
And he's always been wrong about it.
He's always been wrong about it. And it's kind of astonishing to me that nobody has been able to sit him down and set him straight on this.
Yeah.
But he's like, that's part of what you get with him.
And the idea that reciprocal tariffs will result in a reduction or an elimination of tariffs overall.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to that whole war thing where they don't care about what you think.
Yeah.
I think that people listening to this podcast, I think will mostly agree that governments do not care about their citizens.
Yeah. That's
And one thing that tariffs do is that they increase revenues for the government.
yeah.
It's a government tax.
It is.
So your prices of your consumer goods will go up. If governments were using the proceeds on the tariffs to subsidize domestic industries or something like that were being affected by foreign tariffs or something like that,
Yeah.
I mean, at least they could make an argument in that case.
Well, I mean, Trump had said, I think
It's not like they're using the tariff proceeds to reduce the price of eggs in the U.S., though.
No. Well, and Trump had mentioned the idea of doing away with the income tax and making up for that revenue with tariffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a plus for us. I mean, it would be a bit of a wash, but it would. I'd take it.
I mean, that's how this country was intended to fund the government.
Yeah.
Was through tariffs.
Yeah.
Not income taxes or wealth taxes or any other form of direct citizenry tax.
So, like I said, I would welcome that, but like, we're not getting that. Like, that's not what's going on here.
No,
and I think
they're not concerned. The point that I was trying to get to with that is that your governments, this government and governments around the world, they don't care if prices of your consumer goods go up.
Well,
they don't care.
And even Trump mentioned at least I didn't hear him mention it this go around, but the last go around when he tried this and then pulled back, like he mentioned, he's like, there's going to be some pain with this. And so the fact that he recognizes that there's going to be some pain and he's still going forward with it should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll benefit the government by increasing their revenues, and they're just not concerned enough with the plight of the average citizen. It doesn't affect the members of government. individually because they're in the higher classes. It just doesn't affect them that much. And the government as a whole increases its revenue through the tariff collection. And it'll probably grow the government as well, because then you have to hire people to make sure that all the tariffs are being paid.
All of that.
We need some new layer of bureaucracy, I'm sure, to do all this.
Yep.
The governments are not going to respond to this by saying, oh no, well, our poorer citizens are hurting, so we're going to drop our tariffs so that they'll drop their tariffs. That's not going to happen.
It's just never going to happen. It's just not.
So just pain for us all. And
it's really frustrating. And it's one of those situations that, like, the stuff that Trump is disappointing on just seems to this past couple of weeks really be jumping out.
Yeah.
The tariffs, the next subject we're going to kind of move into is another one of those disappointing Trump areas. Yeah. Like it feels like the first few weeks and month of his administration, we were getting a lot of wins, and it seemed like there was a lot of the positive things that we had wanted from him we were getting, but now we're getting the back end of that.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't seem like he's making a lot of progress with the things that he said that he wanted to do that we were on board with. Yeah. I mean, I don't see him putting an end to the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
I don't see him putting an end to war in the Middle East. In fact, I keep seeing it as more and more likely that there's going to end up being a war with Iran.
Yeah, he's blowing that one pretty hard right now. Mm-hmm. I'm still hoping that that's still bluster to try to get some kind of concessions or something from the Iranians.
Yeah.
But it's hard to believe, though. It's really looking more like, no, he's pretty for real about this.
Yeah. Well, and he seemed to think that because he was able to throw the weight of the U.S. government or the U.S. military around at the beginning and get concessions from a number of nations on things like tariffs and stuff like that, that he thought that he could just bully everybody.
Yeah.
But, like, you're not going to bully Vladimir Putin into doing what you want.
No, and that's I didn't look too hard into this, so I don't know a whole lot other than the big talking point the other day was that Trump was furious with Putin over something to do with the deal with the war. I don't know if it was with the negotiations or what, but that's like the same day that Zelensky came out and said that he wasn't going to do the mineral deal.
Yeah.
And so I was excited when I heard he wasn't going to do the mineral deal, because I was like, all right, then that means we're just going to completely pull funding from them. Like, let them do what they're going to do. If they want to count on the Europeans, good luck. Walk away. And then I keep seeing all these headlines about how he's furious with Putin. I'm like, well, what did... So I don't know what...
I don't know specifically what that's about.
I don't know either,
I know that Putin said, we thought that we were going to get like good faith negotiations with the Americans, that we were going to be able to settle this. It doesn't look like Ukraine has any interest in settling it, and it doesn't look like the U.S. is negotiating in good faith the way we thought, and so we're just going to have to settle it on the battlefield.
Yeah. Well, and I'm fine.
And they're in a position to do that.
Well, and truth be told, that's not what I want, obviously. But if we back off and just let that happen, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Like, at least we're not involved anymore, like pushing this thing. But I haven't seen a lot of indications that that's the direction things are going either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't know, because
there's too much political pressure within the Beltway on Trump not to let Putin have a win.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no avoiding it unless we want to get directly involved. And who really wants that?
We don't want that, because we got to go to Iran, know.
And we got China to deal with.
We got China and the Middle East to simmer down. Like, we don't want to be in all three, right?
Yeah, well, some people do.
Yeah. Some people are pretty vested in the military-industrial complex too. So
yeah.
There's always that.
I mean, that's just it. And like I said, Putin's in a position to say, all right, look, if I can't get my way by negotiations, I'll get my way on the battlefield.
Yeah. There's not much that can be done to stop him.
Yeah. I mean, even if the Europeans want to get involved, like to ramp up into a wartime economy for Europe is going to take years. It's too late.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to help this conflict. The worry I have is that they are going into a military economy over there, and that those people just don't know how to treat one another.
Well, and there are people out there that believe that going into a war economy is a way of rebuilding the economy.
Yeah.
Of improving their economy. And you'll still hear people talk about World War II here, that World War II is what brought us out of the Depression.
Yeah, I've heard
are
people
you
make that
kidding me?
argument to
Like,
me.
look how people lived during World War II in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, you took a huge percentage of the population, you sent them overseas.
Well,
but at the same time, like there were all kinds of rations and limitations, and the government was directing where resources were going to go. We became a very communist economy during World War II, and the average citizen did not end up better off. It wasn't an end of the Depression for them.
No. Well, and the boom didn't happen till all the soldiers came home.
Right.
Like, that's when the boom...
And then productivity
that's
resumed,
when the boom came.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know. I've that's always been astonishing because I've had people make that argument. And that's kind of what I've always told them is more or less what you laid out. Like, things weren't great during the war.
Yeah.
And then things only got better when all the people came back home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, but they'll look at the metrics of the economy and say that World War II was the end of it because the government was spending a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah, but that just is that's a feedback loop though. Like
Yeah.
the
No,
government
it's-
spending money is like filling up. It's just crazy.
And it's the same thing in Europe, but apparently nobody is capable of learning this lesson. So their numbers may look better, all these EU countries, when they start spending a whole lot more on militarism, but the citizens in their countries, they're not going to be better off.
Yeah. And that should be the metric that's looked at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the metric that, the people want to look at, you know.
No, but we're libertarians, so we of course don't care about the average citizen, unlike Democrats. And I mean, we're not as evil as Republicans, but
We're close, right?
yeah, we're right there. Thinking that a market economy would actually improve people's lives.
Yeah.
The other big issue that I'm having, well, actually, before we go to this, just real quick announcement, because we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast. So it would have been early this morning. Well, not that early, I guess. It would have been this morning in Korea, though. It was last night when the announcements came for us here in the U.S., but Korea's many, many hours ahead of us.
Yeah. Over there in the future.
Yeah, their constitutional court did vote to impeach and remove the president, Yoon Suk-yeol. So he's out.
He's gone.
Yep.
So how does that work for them? They hold new elections
They
now?
hold new elections. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You'll probably end up with a more liberal candidate taking over the presidency, which potentially, like I said before, opens things up for negotiations with the North.
Yeah.
If Trump wanted to pursue
Well,
that
I was going to
again.
say, he ain't a whole lot of appetite for that right now. He's kind of got his hands full everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, it would be
stirring
nice
up
if he
trouble.
tried to achieve a peace that he could achieve.
Yeah.
But I don't really see it either. He put a lot of people around him that are very interested in conquering.
Yeah.
In controlling the world.
Yeah.
And don't really have that big of an appetite for peace. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I say that I don't think Hegseth is a big warmonger or anything.
Yeah.
I think Rubio is, but or at least has been historically.
Yeah.
Hegseth, I don't think he's a big warmonger, but he's not backing down from anything, so that's a problem in and of itself. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. I mean, I had high hopes for this administration, but they're being dashed day by day.
Yeah, it's definitely a rough patch as far as like hopes go.
Yeah.
So,
the other Trump administration issue that I wanted to talk about is back to that free speech stuff on college campuses and so on.
Oh yeah. Well, you can say anything you want on college campus, as long as you know.
As long as you don't say anything bad about Israel.
Exactly.
And
That's still free speech.
like we've talked plenty. I mean, just to start here, we've of course talked about some of these cases where people that were in this country legally had their legal residencies revoked because they were involved in protests against Israel or pro-Palestinian protests or whatever you want to call. I mean, what the administration says is pro-Hamas protests, but there were no pro-Hamas protests.
Yeah. And even if they were, it was a free country.
Well, sure, but there weren't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Like,
I'm just saying.
There were stupid students that said weird things.
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, like, okay, so this is one of those weird issues where, we talked about it at the time, is that the students are on the right side, but for the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons, yeah.
And I think that some of these student protests, pro-Palestinian protests, did more harm than good because they're just jumping on a bandwagon. They don't understand the history or the relationship of these groups with each other to begin with. And so they don't really understand why. And then they say ridiculous, stupid things that 20-year-olds will say.
They're just following the programming.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot like the Wall Street protests way back when. A bunch of young people out there, and they're protesting something that deserves to be protested.
Yeah.
But they don't understand why.
They don't know anything about it. Well, that was what was so wild specifically with that one, was that everybody had a different answer. Mm-hmm. Like nobody was there for the same reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, at least when they did like the man on the street things walking around, like they all had like just crazy different answers. And it was wild because like, you're right. They were in the right place doing the right thing, all for different reasons.
Yeah. So. Did you see the what's his first name? Schiff.
Adam Schiff?
No. It's the investor guy. He had a podcast that I used to listen to. He was kind of dull, but he was full of information. His last name's Schiff. His father, Erwin Schiff, went to jail over taxes.
It's Pete Schiff.
Peter Schiff. Yeah. Peter
I
Schiff,
follow him, but I don't
still find
listen.
him on YouTube. He's got a long, like it's like a 6-hour video of him at the protests on Wall Street, where he held up a sign that said, "I am the 1%. Ask me anything."
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah.
And spent the whole many hours out there responding to angry college students
who just
complaints about whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really pretty fantastic to listen to because for a couple of reasons. First, you do see that they don't really understand the issues.
Yeah.
And you see, though, at the same time through his responses that there are issues that they just didn't understand. And he's a whole lot better at
articulating
explaining, what the real problems are.
Yeah.
That it's not the economy, it's not the market, it's not the free market, it's all the government interference.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with somebody last week where I was expressing my opinion about stripping government of as much authority as possible.
Yeah.
And she told me, well, you should move to New Orleans. Then you would love it there. They're full of corruption. And I was like, well, first off, I know
I'm not a fan of corruption. Like, did you not hear anything I said?
Yeah, and I know something about the government in New Orleans, and that is not anywhere close to what I would want.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is the corruption thing. Is like, do you identify corruption with a lack of authority?
Yeah.
Or a lack of government? Because corruption is literally, like, by definition, with cooperation or collaboration of the authority structure.
Yeah. Exactly. So the less authority structure there is, the less corruption there will be.
Yeah.
By
it's
definition.
even possible. Yeah.
By definition.
Yeah.
Like
So, I don't know. My complaint has always been when you get into discussions with people about things like that, market economy, corruption, etc., is that they always stop one level short.
yeah.
They always stop before they see the root in government action, and they refuse to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is partly because it's been there for our entire life. It's the same thing with inflation. Like we all just accept that prices are going to go up. We don't want them to go up fast. We don't want them to go up at all, but they always do. It's been a part of our life as long as we've lived. And same thing with our grandparents, as long as they've lived. You know, this has always been with us. And so it's the same thing with government is it's always been there. So it's always been accepted. And you can't envision a situation where it's not there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's where it takes like just kind of educating people on it, you know?
Yeah, my goal is always in those discussions to try and lead people back to see where the problem is with government action to begin with.
Absolutely.
Like, it's people taking advantage of government action or directing government action, but none of it could happen without the government action.
Exactly.
If they didn't have the authority,
yeah,
then you wouldn't have the problem.
Yeah. And you don't have to be an anarchist libertarian like us to accept that. Like, I mean, we take it to the furthest extreme, but you can be a minarchist or like, well, we need some kind of government and still be like, well, like we need like a quarter of what we've got.
Yeah.
And that would, I mean, and just think about how huge that would be as far as, you know, I mean, just stripping it down.
That was one of those things too, is like, okay, and you understand, right, that I'm a radical among libertarians.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, like I say, there's a middle ground somewhere here. I'll keep pushing for mine, but if we could all get on board with the middle ground, let's do that, you know?
Absolutely. So. Well, and so, excuse me. There's all this action right now with these universities, with the Trump administration dictating how the universities are going to run their campuses.
Yeah.
You know, we had the issue with them demanding that everybody connected with the protests at Columbia be expelled.
Yeah.
In the name of protecting the Jews, in the name of opposition to anti-Semitism. But what that resulted in is a whole bunch of Jews being expelled from Columbia because there were a whole lot of Jews involved in those protests against what Israel was doing in Gaza.
Yeah.
And then now they already succeeded in forcing one president of Columbia to resign, and they're trying to force another president of Columbia to resign because she's not adequately
expelling folks?
Well, she's not adequately radical in protecting Israel, even though she's a Jew.
Yeah.
And so once again, you'll have, in the name of protecting the Jews, robbing a Jew of a job.
Yeah, right.
A good job.
A good job, right.
As the president of an Ivy League school in this country. And beyond all of that, I have a real problem with the idea that the executive branch of the federal government of the United States can dictate to any college or university how they're going to run things on their campus.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing I want is for the federal government to be able to tell colleges and universities how to do their business.
Yeah.
And they're already doing it to some degree, and I'm going to bring this in, you know, the whole student loans issue that the federal government has completely taken over and has driven prices up for college to a radical degree. And so I'm going to use that to say, as Benjamin Constant says, whenever the government tries to do our business for us, they do it worse than we would and at greater cost.
Yeah.
And so the last thing we want is the government to start dictating to a university system how they're going to do their business.
Yeah.
They've already driven up the cost. Now they're going to make it a worse a worse product,
Yeah.
and it's already gotten pretty bad.
It's already rough. Yeah.
And a lot of this comes back around. Like, you can just start asking yourself, well, how is it that the government is able to dictate to these universities what they're going to do anyway? How does the government have any authority there?
Well, under what authority are they claiming?
Well, they don't have any authority to do it.
Yeah.
But what they do have is that the U.S. government is the primary source of revenue for a lot of these colleges.
Well, of course they are, through the student loans.
That too, but also through research grants.
Oh, okay.
Research funding for colleges and universities is a major income source
Oh,
or a
I'm
major
sure.
revenue source for
Man,
colleges
so
and
without
universities.
government, these universities would just like fold.
And we talked about this in the context of the medical system. I was talking about Tulane got 90-something% of its revenue. Tulane Medical Center got 90-something% of its revenue from the NIH and related agencies through research funding. I mean, that's truth for all levels of science and the humanities and everything else. The government is the major source of research revenue or research funding in the United States. They've completely taken over this aspect from businesses, from individuals, and it does a couple of things. First off, it gives the U.S. government leverage in all of these institutions where they can just stop funding.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild.
Now, places like Columbia, Harvard, like these big Ivy League institutions with long traditions and so forth, they have endowments. They could make up the difference if they wanted to, but they would have to go into their own money.
But why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Like, the government money's free.
Yeah, they'd have to start spending their own money.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they're using our money to control all these other institutions.
Yeah.
And they're also using our money to direct research in the ways that the government wants the research to go. Which I think is its own problem. And in the same,
which is the reason, like, you've got so many studies that climate change is real, is because the government's sitting here paying for it through these universities and grants and all of these things.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was a science teacher for a while. She also worked at NOAA. She used to write grant proposals all the time, constantly writing grant proposals.
Yeah.
She talked to me, it didn't affect the way she was writing stuff for the most part, but she was talking to me about how, like, one of the big issues in writing for grants was the climate change issue. And that if you could incorporate the climate change issue into whatever it was that you were requesting money for, you were more likely to get money. Yeah. So you might be describing you want to do some research on the mating habits of ground squirrels and wherever. Yeah. But if you could bring it in as and the effects of climate change on those mating habits in the future population of those ground squirrels, then you were more likely to get funding than without it.
Yeah, yeah. Because that's another, the government can say, well, look, we've got another study that shows, this is real.
Yeah. And the NIH can make sure that that they get studies that show how valuable vaccines are or whatever it is, because they control so much of the money going into these researches.
Well, they're buying these, they're buying these things.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just buying the things. It's that the people that agree with you are more likely to get money.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's what I mean.
I mean, like, you can write grant proposals and get research funding for working against the idea of man-made climate change, that it's, that we're affecting the climate or whatever, but you're not getting that money from the U.S. government.
Well,
and the U.S. government is the biggest pot to pull from.
Well, exactly. So...
and just think about that they're using our money to do all this too.
Of course.
And in a lot of ways, I think that, there are a lot of people that would make the argument, and the big one that I've heard is the internet, that, well, we wouldn't have some of these big advancements if it weren't for government research money. Like, the government spent a bunch of money in a number of institutions to develop the internet.
No, I'm pretty sure Al Gore invented the internet.
Well, that's what he was talking about, actually.
Is it?
Yeah. That he kind of like spearheaded the legislation to get
invent the internet.
To get the research funding.
Okay.
But anyway, the point is that they say, well, if we didn't have all this big funding from the government towards these particular goals, that these goals would never get done.
Yeah.
And I think that like people used to make that argument about space
Yeah.
till Elon Musk came along.
Yeah. And now he's rescuing our astronauts.
Right. And the truth is that throughout history, very wealthy people that have eccentric interests or whatever have funded research into all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And there have been plenty of wealthy people in history that have found just talented people and said, I'll give you money to look into whatever it is you want.
Yeah.
And I think that with the development of communications technologies and so forth, that I think that we would have gotten to the internet anyway.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I think it was a mistake. I think if we could put the internet genie back in the bottle, we'd be a better society.
Well, but then we wouldn't have this podcast.
Well, maybe not, but that would be like the one negative.
Distribution would be tough.
Yeah.
No, I think this is. I think, of course, that the internet was a great thing, but
It's a mixed bag.
it is a mixed bag. Well, everything is.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I've got to stop talking soon.
You're running out of gas
My
over there.
throat's killing me right
Yeah.
now. So we'll wrap it up pretty quickly. We're close to an hour anyway. I'm trying so hard not to cough at this moment. Anyway, I think that it becomes a cop-out a lot like charity.
Yeah.
This is like people don't give to charity because they say, I mean, there are plenty of people that give to charity, of course, but there are
But a lot of people make the argument that.
But a lot of people make the argument is, why should I give to charity? I pay taxes for that.
Yeah.
And I imagine that people in the know also can make that argument about research stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't give towards research because that's what the
government's doing that.
This National Science Foundation is about, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that if we took all that away, first off, we would all have a lot more money in our pockets. And then it frees you up to contribute to things that you're interested in. I give to some research charities. I think that's really important, and I give to some humanitarian charities as well.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm spending my money better than the government is.
Yeah.
So,
just think if you had more of your money back.
yeah, exactly. And everybody else too.
Yeah.
Anyway, the problem here is that the government is using your money to give to these institutions to have leverage over the institutions themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. And in this particular case, it's apparently you can go and you can protest about the Ukraine war or Chinese tariffs or whatever else, but you can't protest Israeli treatment of Palestinians.
Yep.
Because that's anti-Semitic. And I'm so tired of this idea that criticizing the Israeli government is the same as being anti-Jewish.
Yeah.
Because when I criticize the American government, the U.S. government, which I do every week on this podcast,
Yeah.
it does not make me anti-American. So how is it that criticizing the Israeli government makes me anti-Jewish?
Yeah.
It's just a lie. And I don't understand why that's the one line that you can't cross.
Yeah.
That'll get you kicked out of this country. In fact, that'll get you kicked out of this country even if you're here legally, whereas the government, the Trump administration that campaigned on ending illegal immigration and deporting illegal immigrants isn't doing a very good job of that, but they're sure wasting a lot of resources on kicking out people that are here legitimately, legally, because they criticize the Israeli government.
Well, and nothing will turn because when Trump came into office, the American people supported the idea of mass immigration or
Mass deportation.
Deportation, yeah.
Of illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Of illegal
Well, that's
immigrants.
just it, of illegal immigrants. I mean, like I say, and it's pretty astounding that we kind of like crossed that threshold in 4 years where the American people were that okay with the idea of that. And the quickest way to ruin that mandate, that is a mandate that Trump had coming into office. You make a lot of arguments about what kind of mandate he had, but he had a mandate to do that.
Yeah.
This is the easiest way to screw it up. Because you start like revoking visas and green cards and stuff. Like that ain't what people voted for.
Yeah.
They voted to remove the illegals. And removing the illegals can get all kinds of dirty by itself. You don't need this to muck it up even more.
Yeah.
It's
Especially on behalf of a foreign government.
yeah. It's I don't know. I mean, it's just bad politics if you ask me. Like I say, But I wasn't elected president, so what do I know?
Yet.
I haven't been elected president yet.
Yeah. You got to start with city council, probably.
Yeah, I got to start. Trump didn't.
Well, that's true. But he
But
already
everybody knew who Trump was.
Yeah.
They got to learn about me through.
He already had a national platform.
Yeah.
I guess you do too, technically.
Yeah.
It's
International.
an international platform.
I was going
It's
to
a
say
podcast.
international. Yes. So.
All right. Well, let's wrap up so that I can give my throat a rest.
Cool.
You stay out of this. All right. So next week. I don't think there are any issues with next week. We're closing in on Easter. I don't think that'll affect us, but
No, Easter's on Sunday.
well, yeah.
On April 20th.
Yeah, but my my brother's coming in town.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. And so I'm going to have family stuff for some
Always
time
the
before.
last to know.
He's actually leaving on Easter, so
Oh, really?
yeah. We got things going on before Easter itself, like Friday and Saturday.
Gotcha.
Maybe Thursday. I don't know. I can't remember. I'll have to look at the thing.
It's still a little ways away.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. That's not next week.
Yeah.
Next week, there shouldn't be any conflict that I'm aware of. And so we should be here then. And unless my throat falls out between now and then.
Or the motor falls out of my car.
Yeah, I guess that could happen. Well, that's already happened more or less. That's why we have our guest.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hitching rides over here.
Yeah. There's always Uber.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to carry any equipment. It's all here already. All you got to do is get here.
Yeah. Can be a challenge.
Yeah. All right. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Facebook. You can subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean. Like and share, comment, subscribe. You can always email me at michael@thelibertymike.com. Like hearing from you. What else is there? Tell your friends. All the interactions with the various places and posts and so forth help somehow that I don't understand. But anyway, they do help. So we appreciate.
Got to get those algos going.
Yeah, appreciate all those likes and shares and so forth. We appreciate word of mouth though too. So yeah, tell people that you think might be interested, or tell people that just need to hear it because they don't understand how tariffs work or whatever.
Or how economics work.
Yeah, all those
or
things.
how anarchy works.
Yeah, we'll get there. Probably don't start off with that.
Got to ease them into it.
Yeah. And we'll be back next week when we finally get this right. And in the meantime, try to stay free.
Life short, live free.
Ciao.
Later.